Begin the Quran Daf Masechta Sotah Daf Mem. Begin 5 lines down at the top of the Yommi, where the Gemara continues with these psukim that the that the tzibur, the minion, says during the Birchas Kohen to show appreciation for the brachas that are being said to them. Shir Skil sponsored by Kazakh and the Cheskel turn to Daf Achem. Turn to today's Daf. Some discuss in today's Daf are psukim, like we said, recited during Birchas Kohen in the Beis Hamikdash and Gevulim. The discussion regarding whether there's a difference in Beis Hamikdash or out of the Beis Hamikdash. The whole nusach of Moedim Drabanan, which is very interesting. The text that we say during when the Chazan says Moedim. The concept of loyalty to Emet Sibalecha, there should always be the fear of the minion, of the shul, of the minion on you. That we know the Kamanala go up with their shoes to Duchen. The Birchas Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippur, what would be the Kohen Gadol when he finished his avodah? He would make brachas. What were those brachas on the Torah that he would lay in? The concept that you could give cover to the student in the place of where the Rebbe is. The parenthetical comes up in Dalgam and Dove and Dalgam Torah. You could skip when you're leaning from the Nevi'im, but you can't skip when you're leaning the Torah. It depends if it's one topic and if it's B'chdesh Le'afsik Turgman, the interpreter will still be interpreting, and then you'll be able to mish to the next part in the Sefer Torah. Then it could be okay to skip. To begin the Quran Daf Mem, now 5 lines down at the top of the Yom, it says Gemara Heichen Amram. So we said that when the Kanam Varcham Asa'am, we said Mahin Aymin, what would they say? Like we said, it was customary for the tzibah to recite shlachas while the Kanam recite Berchas Kan, because Shirim has been upon Maidim Lefan of Al Berchas of Har Shei Neichs, and this Gemara is going to tell us they want to show appreciation. So that the Gemara says that these psukim that they would say Heichen Amram, where would they say it? So Yisrael says Ben Kol Bracha Bracha, but says between every single bracha, when they finished, then they said one pasuk. When they finished the second, then they said the second pasuk, and when they finished the third bracha, they said the third. Rav Shloimy says no. B'haskaras Hashem, when the Kam would mention Hashem's name, then they would say in every bracha there's Hashem's name. Yeah, because all of them say Baruch B'Shemoy, right? They say no. What do they say? They say yeah. So then this says Haskaras Hashem, and so that's when they would say the pasuk. Now the Gemara actually says Pligi Bar Rav Mari Bar Rav Zvid Machlekes Amiram. Chadam one says Psuka L'Gabel Psuka, that actually when the Khan would say the first pasuk, they would say one of their 3 psukim, by the second one, the third one, the third one, and Sotah by Musaf and Sotah by Mincha, because they all have 3 psukim. So for every one you did one. Chadam one says no, actually our kol psuka amalulu kulu. On every pasuk that the Kohen said, the Yisraelim would say all 3 of the psukim. Now Amar B'chi Bar Abba says Kol Amar B'Gvulim, it says whoever says these psukim out of the Beis Hamikdash, Eina Ela Toya, is mistaken, because it was only instituted to say because of the honor of the Shem HaMeyuchad, which was only mentioned in the Beis Hamikdash. Out of the Beis Hamikdash, there's no point in saying these psukim. Says the Gemara, what? Amar Chanina Bar Papa says, Teda, you should know, the B'mikdash namin la meboil memrenu. What do you mean? Even in the Beis Hamikdash, you shouldn't be saying this. Why? Because Kolom yesh locha evet shemavachan. I said, you have a servant who he's blessing him. He's not paying attention. What's that to? Still, I'm giving you a bracha. Pay attention. How could you be saying psukim during the Birchas Kohanim? Now, however, the other way around, he says, no. Teda, you should know, the B'Gvul namim no, and out of the Beis Hamikdash, you also have to say the psukim. Do you think you have a servant that you're blessing him? He's not showing on his face to show that the blessing of his master is significant to him and is sweet to him, and he should show a dank. So that's the question about. We have 3 different opinions. One says only the Beis Hamikdash because the Shem Mefayrish, not outside. Other one says no, even the Beis Hamikdash not because was zogst the red nicht, be quiet, listen. Other one says no, out of the Beis Hamikdash also because you have to show appreciation. Now Tyson wonders that why do you say if someone says it out of the Beis Hamikdash he's mistaken, but what do you do with the Gemara brachas? And we all know this. We say someone that sees a dream should be saying this during the Birchas Kohanim. I thought you're supposed to be quiet. We do it differently, but the halach is brought that you'll say it. So Taisa says that's because of sakana, because it might be a dangerous dream which has to have healing. Even on Shabbos you're allowed to do tainis chalam. So you see, maybe that's an exception. And the Taisa actually brings that Rabbi Chananel says that Reb Chia Bar Abba, Reb Chanina Bar Papa, and Reb Avo, the halacha is that, like they say, that you don't say these psukim by Birchas Kohanim. So that answers the question of someone who just left before. Zuknish the psukim Taisa says of these psukim. Now another teacher, Amar Bavo, he says, Mereish Havim Ilahu. In the beginning, I used to say these psukim, But keeping the chazina le Rabba the min akui the lo amalahu that he doesn't say it. I don't know. Yeah, I always had the minich because the Rebbe is given dot by the minyan. He saw he didn't say it. Now, once we said a teaching from Rabbi Vo, so the Gemara brings another unrelated teaching, seemingly at least. Rabbi Vo says, Mirei Shavimina, in the beginning I used to say, In Vesana Ana, that I am an Anav. Again, everyone translates humble, I translate authentic, whatever it is. But be that may, I always said I was an Anav. Keeping the Chazin, once I saw Rabbi from Akoi, who we just mentioned again, Rabbi Vo was talking about what he saw Rabbi Menakoi. So Rabbi Vo always thought that he was an Anav. When he saw Rabbi Menakoi, the Ama Ihu Chataima, he said one pshat, one reasoning. Now his translator, they used to have the Talmudic custom was that Rosh Hashiva, he doesn't have to be amplifying his voice. It was, zogt still. And then the Matargim would, whatever he whispered to him during the Drusha, he would go, Shtayt and zogt, you have someone with a good, you have a good speaker. It doesn't have so much teichen, but he talks with power and command. And so that was the Matargim. Yeah, they go home as someone has teichen and someone that knows how to speak. So he talked to his Matargim. So he said one pshat, but the Matargim said a different pshat. But like Kaplan, and he wasn't bothered by that. He says, Amina lab in Versana. He says, I am not an honor. Because he thought that, I'm authentic who I am, it doesn't bother me anything, but he could never fathom that giving a drasha and in his Matargim saying something else and not taking umbrage to that. But Rabbi Malki wasn't bothered by that. He says, okay, nice pshat, Now says the Gemara, what was Rabbi Vo's anivis that he thought he was an anav, then he realized he's not. The base of Rabbi Vo. Also here again with this interpreter, that Rabbi Vo's interpreter, his wife, this is how it happens, that the wife of an interpreter of Rabbi Vo said to the base of Rabbi Vo, said to Rabbi Vo's wife, mine doesn't need yours. Which means to say, my husband is a chacham just like your husband. This that he bends down and he serves your husband, he's just showing him honor. But don't think that your husband is a bigger chacham than my husband. So also the base, so this is how everyone could resonate. Also the base of Amr Leila Bavo. So the wife went and told her husband, Chitzpah, you heard what this wife said, that she thinks that her husband is just like you. Samallah, he said to her, what do you take away from this? Mini, umine, yiskal, from me, from him is going to be elevated Hashem's name. What's the difference? Who cares? So that is anivus. That's just being authentic. Whoever you are, doesn't make a difference. You don't need the accolades, the appreciation from other people. And again, he realized that he's not an anav after that, because he saw that the Matargim was saying a different pshat, and Garnish Makbet Gibein, das heißt anivus. Moreover, this was also from his humility. Rebbe Vo, Imni Rabbanan Alei, the rabbis appointed, they were appointing him Lamamne Beresha, that he should serve as the Rosh, as the Rosh Hashiva, as the Ruv. Now, even the Chazi Rebbe de Menakhe, that once he saw that again this Rebbe Abba from Menakhe, again here he is with this this other Rebbe Abba Menakhe, the Nafish Le Bali Chayvis, that he had a lot of creditors, had a lot of loans, and Amalahu, he said to them, Ikar Rabba, there is a great sage who he's appropriate to be the Rosh Hashiva more than me. And why did he do this? So that when they make him the Rosh Hashiva, so you have a Shaina community of Mavais Vitze Mechaber Zayin Aruv, not like this English Shmek is Mavais Nashvit Mechaber Zayin Aruv. Aruv, what do? They give him gifts and they make him wealthy. And it should be chashiv and they should listen to his words, like it says, Va'akoyin hagodol me'echav, the kohen who's greater from his brothers, Os Heis, the Gemara says in Yoma, Gadleyu Mishal Echav, that they have to give him enough mishtitzim. So therefore he said, make him he could make him the Rosh Hashiva. Oh, no more credit card bills, no more anything. They paid off everything, no more mortgage. So therefore, that was also from his anivis that although he was fit, they asked him to be Rosh Hashiva. Obviously, he was a good get the baldarsh and Shaina Hadir Punim and whatever, and a Talmud Chacham. But he says, no. Can make him the Rosh Hashiva. And according to the way Rashi is saying it, that was also one of his anivas. The Gemara brings a story that Rebbe Vo again, Reb Chiba Rabba, now it's talking about Reb Chiba Rabba, Iklahu asu, they came to a certain place. Rebavo Dorsh Bagadato. So again, it sounds like this Rebavo, they want to make him maybe the Ruv, the Rosh Hashiva, because Agadik, everyone loves Agadic teachings. He knew how to be Mafalfa, Shaina Masim, and his, he would get up and they would toes into, they came to him. So he would darshan by Hamaletic teaching. He's Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Dorish B'Shmaita. He was the one with the, all the halachas and the dinim and the issa and the taharis. That was what he would give a shir, a Ian shir, with people, hunched over and v'chvetched. So Shavku kol amud Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Everyone left Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Was like up to Rabbo, and they went to Rabbo. They had like these two different halls, and one is like three people, they're coming, and then the other one was everyone, the Hamoy Nam comes here, the Groisse Mapik Marguli is the Groisse Rabbo, Gaidred and Furet. So they went to Rabbo Choleshtaite. So Rabbo was feeling disheartened. Right? You could be the Grest Guin Gudel, whatever, and people think that he has no feelings. He has feelings. So Amalei Ravo said to him, let me give you a parable what this can be compared to. Two people. One sells precious gems. Another one sells these utensils that women use and paupers use, like a spindle and needles and forks and these small little tchotchkes. Who do they jump on to buy from? Isn't it from the one that sells these little tchotchkes? In other words, it's cheap. And everyone loves Aldi, everyone loves these, where you can get a good deal, you get something cheap, whatever. There's a lot of people to buy. And he was trying to appease him, to tell him that, hey, you have precious gems. The grace of Toisa Chayshin, the Sivas Mishpud, you guys are grace, this is the gems. By me, I'm saying Masalach, whatever. So of course everyone comes to me, to my Derusha, but don't think it means anything great about who I am. Now, the Gemara tells us, however, that Kol Yom, every day, you have Malav Reb Chia bar Abba Bavo. It seems like Reb Bavo was more the senior rabbi, and Reb Chia bar Abba would escort Reb Bavo Adu Shpiza until he came to where he was staying. And the reason why, actually, the Gemara says, is Mishum Yikra de Beikes. It was actually because of the honor of the Caesar, of the Kaiser, because Reb Bavo was close with the government. As the Gemara says in Chagiga, Daf Yudalid. So to show honor to the king, because he was the representative, he was maybe in the parliament or whatever it is, so he would always escort Reb Bavo. That day, so he felt bad. He had maybe 5,000 there by his drush, and he had 32, whatever, and there was, so he felt bad, so he escorted him to where he was staying. Still, he wasn't appeased. It's so interesting to understand what the story is teaching us, but it definitely teaches that people has feelings. And that people like things that are enjoyable and easy and light, and that's the ones who get a lot of likes and get a lot of love and this and that. And the ones who have, whatever, he has maybe 3 people coming to his shir. It doesn't mean anything. It just means about what people are want easy. That's what people go to. But the gems are sometimes hidden away. Now, going back to what we had mentioned, similar to Nasias Kapayim that we said, that the one who's doing the Sis Kapayim, when they're giving the bracha, so the people have to answer to show appreciation. So similarly, the Gemara says, when the Chazan is saying Moedim, ha'am mahim aimrim, what do the people say during Moedim? Which that's what the Mefarshim, I heard once from Yasha, they say, Moedim, you can't have somebody being Moedim. You have to say your eigen moedim. You have to say your own appreciation. So even though everything you're hearing from the tzibah, from the chazan, but for giving thanks, you have to say it yourself. So what do they say when the chazan is saying? Actually, it makes it sound like that it's actually moedim on the moedim. They're actually hearing his moedim and they're actually adding on to that. But be that as it may, what do they say? So Rabbi says, and this is what we call this moedim dirabanan. It's moedim anachnu chashem. We give thanks to Hashem our God. Al sha'on moedim lach. So people don't realize. And as we'll see in a moment, this is the primary idea of Moedim D'Rabbanan. This that you gave it into our heart to be connected to you, to give thanks to you, we thank you for that. The people take for granted that, we are, Anshe Shlamaynim, Farem Heimish Yidin. Where do you think you got that from? Where do you think you got the idea to learn, to do anything? From the Rebbeinu Shalom. One of the principles the Rambam talks about, that the Rebbeinu Shalom talks to a person in his heart. That itself, that you are inspired to do anything, is from the Rebbeinu also. Like the Kedushas Live said, that's the matness he gives you on Pidim, he says that the Matunis Lavyanim or the Mishlech Monis, what's your bunch on Mishlech Monis? Eshik de Oichid. He sends to your heart, he inspires you. So we give thanks for our giving thanks. That's what the Iker idea of Moedim B'Rabbanan, you should have in mind, because that's the primary idea. I give thanks, that I'm giving thanks. Now, Shmuel Lama, he says, admitting, right.
The first moedim is admitting that you are Hashem, you are Hashem.
We're admitting that we give thanks.
We're admitting that you are Hashem.
And
then we say Al Shanachnu moedim. Then we say thanks.
Oh, Al Shana, but then.
Sheh means adore. Al is thanks.
Oh, meaning, but it that's something. It changes because you're saying we don't say the word moedim again. We're saying Al Shana moedim lach.
That chaylik is a thing.
Oh, it means you're saying the word moedim could have it has two translations. So in that context, it's going to be used for two different things. Okay, so yeah, so that it could be. Well, he didn't say. He didn't say yet. His nusach didn't say that yet. But you're saying the nusach that we have. I mean, because he's saying moedim anachnu l'chashem b'kenim. What's that? That's we give thanks, right? Al shon the moedim lach. Right, I'm just saying, but it's thanks that we give thanks. Maybe that with our nusach that we have today, it'll have that. You have to know, and maybe our nusach it changes. Now Shmuel he says, Elikecha basar, the God of all flesh, al shon the moedim lach, on that we give thanks to you. Rabbi Shloimy, like Rashi says, he adds on. Rashi says they're all just adding on to the earlier Nesklais. That's what's important. No one's disagreeing with the primary principle that it's we're admitting or giving thanks for the fact that we give thanks. It's just once we're saying, and Taisa actually brings on many different Nesklais from the Yerushalmi, like Chashem Agdula, Magvuda, whatever. It's like a whole many different Nesklais for what this Moedim D'Rabbanan is. But our Gemara also has many different Nesklais. He says Yitzchenu, Yitzbereshis, the one who created us, created all the beginning of creation. Al Sha'an the Moedim lach. Again, that we give thanks to you. Now, the bracha is v'adois l'shimcha gadol, blessings and thanks to your great name, al shachiyasana v'kemtona, that you kept us alive and you maintained us. Al sha'anu moedim lach. Again, everyone agrees that it ends of that we give thanks to you. He concludes it like this: that so you should keep us alive and you should find favor on us and you should gather us together. But you should gather our exiles to the holy courtyard, to safeguard your statutes, and to do your will with a complete heart. Again, that we thank you. Now, Papa says, and as he says a few times in Shas, he says they're all praiseworthy versions, and therefore we should say them all. Now, going back to what we said before with Birchas Kayanim, a parenthetical lesson. So, Omer Reb Yitzchak, he says, a person should always have the awe, which is a chashivas, of the minion of the community on you. Why? We find that the kahanim that we said there has to be pun connected pun. They face the people. The back is toward the divine presence. You're not supposed to have your back to Kodesh. You see how holy, how awesome is the tzibur that you're going to put your back to the Shekhinah to face the people. Nachal Mahachi brings a different source of pasuk in Divrei Yom Aleph. So Yaakov Melech David Aragla b'Yom. David Melech stood up on his feet and he said, "Shemu'uni achai ba'ami." Listen to me, my brothers, my people. Meaning he was warning them that they should donate to the Bedek Habayis, to the Binyan Mikdash. If people have to donate, think the shul runs on its own. You have to give to the Beis Hamikdash. So what's this? So the Gemara says, "Im achai lo ma'ami." If he's saying my brothers, why is he saying my people? V'im ami lo ma'achi. If he's saying my people, why is he saying my brothers? So Rabbi Lazi says, "Amam David Yisrael." David said to the Jewish people like this: "Im atem shoymim li." If you listen to me to be whole in front of the omnipresent, in front of Hashem, then achai, then you're my brothers and you're my friends. Atem, that's what you are. So we see that the king had an awe, a chashivas for the tzibur. If they're upstanding, they're like his brothers, holy brothers, right? They're like we're talking like a lotion of chavivas. Now, if not, then amiatim, then you're my people and you're subdued beneath me. I'm going to pursue you with the stecken, but with the stick. But you see that if they're acting appropriately, that there's a certain aim for the tzibur that even the king will call them my brothers. Rabbanan they bring a different source. The halacha says the inakam misham la'alis besan de'aleim leducham. The Kahan and Allah go up to Duchan with their shoes. This is one of the 9 things that Rabbi Shloimy instituted. Now, my time is saying, well, what would be the reason of that halacha? Isn't it la mishum kavod tzibur, because of the dignity of the minyan? Because that when what happens is that when the kohen is lifting up his hands, so it lifts up his garments, so his shoes are going to be seen by the minyan. It's not appropriate for them to see with all the mud on it. So you see that l'chayr, the reason why you take off your shoes is because of a certain covet for the tzibur. So that says Gemara Rashi says loy no. Hasim, that's for a different reason. Shema nifsikale ritzu besandali. What might happen is that a strap on his shoe might tear, and he's going to be embarrassed. People are going to laugh and say, and when the shoe is untied, so v'hadar azlamik today. So he's going to go back down to tie it when his fellow kanim are making the bracha. Are they going to say, "Oh, ben gerusha ben chalutzahu, oh mizan achulu"? Right? He must have been the mom is giving a grisha chalitz because he's not fit to do nesis kabam. Therefore, he's sitting down, and that's why we don't wear shoes, because of that concern of the straps, but not because of the coveted tzibur. Now the Gemara says, according from the Mishnah, we said, "But mikdash bracha achas v'chulu." In the base of Mikdash, they didn't do 3 brachas; they did only 1 bracha. So as we continue to the base, says the Gemara, "Kol kach lama." Why so much? Meaning, why in the base of Mikdash did they make the 3 brachas into 1 bracha? Says the Gemara, because they didn't answer in the base of Mikdash, so there was nothing to separate between the brachas. Which says, well, I don't understand what you're saying. In the base of Mikdash, they didn't answer they said Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Leilam Vad when they heard Hashem's name. So that's a big hefsek than answering Amen. He said, moreover, they would fall on their face when they heard Yehoyushayimin, that's Hashem Epikoyin God, and they would fall on the face even by the Hagrala. So what are you saying that there's no hefsek? It says Taisus, no, maybe they would answer Baruch Shem right away when they heard the Shem Hanichbad B'Hanayra. They didn't wait to the end of the pasuk. So then they fell, but the end of the pasuk they didn't do anything. So therefore it was like 1 bracha. So therefore it says Taisus, that's why they didn't answer anything after each pasuk. They only answered after it was all over. Where do you know this idea that you don't answer in the base of Mikdash? Because it says the pasuk in Nehemiah, get up and bless Hashem, your God. Meaning every single bracha that they made in the base of Mikdash, this is how they would bless. Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael, min ha'olam va'ad ha'olam. From the world unto the world, for Magen Avram, and for Mechayim Eisim. And that's how the Chazan would say the bracha. Now, not Baruch Hashem, but the whole nusach. Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisrael, min ha'olam va'ad ha'olam, Magen Avram, Mechayim Eisim, whatever it is. Now, minan shekol bracha bracha tila, and how do you know that for every single blessing there was praise, which, as Taisa says, the Gemara says in Tainis, what's the tehillah? Is Baruch Shem Kavay Machus Leilam Vad? They didn't answer Amen. They said tehillah, which is Baruch Shem. Like it says in the end of the pasuk, Vivaruchu Shem Kavay Decha. They will bless your honorable name, which Rashi explained, meaning the people would respond, Baruch Shem Kavay, right? Shem Kavay Decha is Baruch Shem Kavay Malchus Leilam Vad. That the people would answer La Halal Lahaydais. And he's elevated in every blessing and praise, which is Al Kol Bracha Bracha for every single blessing. Tell give praise. So that's how we know they didn't answer Amen. Rather, they answered Baruch Shem Kavod Machutz Leilam Vad. Now, continue with the next Mishnah with the halacha of what was said in Lashon HaKodesh. So says the Mishnah, Barachas Kohen Gadol. The blessings of the Kohen Gadol in Yom Kippurim, which we said was in Lashon HaKodesh. After he finished the Avodas Hayoim, he would read from the Torah, as the Mishnah explains. He would make 8 brachas, as we're going to explain. So Kate said, how was this done first, this whole procedure? So first of all, Chazan HaKnesses. Who's the Chazan HaKnesses? He's the Shamish, really. The Shamish is the one who puts in all takes care of everything in the shul, to bring in, to take out, to strip everything, to prepare everything. I don't know, you have to know who does that in the shul, who would be considered Shamish. But not Penny, because he might be the next one. I don't know. Noitel Sefer Torah. He would take the Sefer Torah. Shamish is like the guy who does all the, I don't know how to call it this. Shlak, but he would Noitel Sefer. He takes the Sefer Torah first. But Noitel Rosh HaKnesses. Who's the Rosh HaKnesses? The Rosh HaKnesses is really what the Gabbai is. The Gabbai makes all the decisions in the shul. Who gets to Mafte? Who gets to Dav the Omid? So that's the Gabbai. So the Shamish would take it and give it to the Gabbai. And then B'Rosh HaKnesses Nisla Sgan. Then the Gabbai would give it to the deputy Kohen Gadol. I mean, he's prepared in case something happens to invalidate the Kohen Gadol. In Yom Kippurim, you have someone, the replacement ready, like we have Lahavdil, the vice president, in case something happens to the president, something you always have this executive order that he'll be ready. Then Maskan the Kohen Gadol, then the deputy gives it to the Kohen Gadol. Then the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Gadol gets up and he receives it and he lanes from it. What does he lane? So he lanes from in Vayikra the Parsha of Achrei Mois, which talks about the order of Yom Kippurim over there, which is only the first parsha over there that talks about that's where he lanes from. And then Va'ach Ba'aser, which is in this week's parsha, in Emor, that the parsha of Shiur or Chesev, that there it talks about the Inuyim and the prohibition of Malacha, which is close to Achrei Mois. So you could roll the Sefer Torah when the Meturgaman is translating the last pasuk that you lane from an Achrei Mois. It's not such a big gap that it's going to be that the Meturgaman has paused, so it's not so disgraceful for the minyan, and you could roll the Sefer Torah. Now, although he's actually going to lane from Sefer Bamidbar by heart, and you're not going to roll to over there because it's very far away, and that's going to be too much of a pause, and people are going to be waiting out still, and it's embarrassing for the minyan. So, but this they would roll to there in Achba Asa. But then they would roll up the Sefer Torah. Umanich b'cheke would put in his chest. And he would say, "Yes, more than what I read from you is written over here." Meaning, even though I'm going to end up reading another third parasha, don't think it's because it's missing from the Sefer Torah and therefore I'm rolling it up. No, more than what I'm reading from you in regarding this topic is written over here. The Gemara is going to ask, why do you have to go through this whole drusha? I was going to answer because we don't want to spread any rumors on the Sefer Torah as if there's something wrong with it. And then the third thing he laned was Uba Aser Shebechomesh HaBegudim, that the 10th of Tishrei, which is the Mesafim, that in Sefer Bamidbar, Koyd Al Peh, that he laned by heart. And then Mavarach Al Shemona Brachas. That's when he made these 8 different blessings. So he made the bracha Al HaTorah, on the Torah, which is the bracha Asher Nasan Lanu, which is we say after the Aliyah, because here we just finished reading from the Torah. Vala Avodah, which is the bracha Britzei, the service in the Beis HaMikdash. Vala Doya on the thanks, which is the bracha Moedim, because when he finishes now on Yom Kippur the Avodah, so he has to say on the Avodah, but there's no Avodah without Hoidah. The Gemara says in Megillah Daf Yomi, Zavech Toidi Chabdenani, the one who slaughters the Thanksgiving offering will honor me, meaning after the Zvicha comes the Hoidah. So part of the Avodah is Moedim. Then Machilas Oven regarding the forgiving of the sin, which is really the middle bracha of the davening Ata B'chartanu, which you conclude Melech Moichel B'Seilech Lavoineseinu V'Lavoines Amay, etc. That's Mechilas Oven. Vala Mikdash for the Beis HaMikdash, which not davening for the Beis HaMikdash, they had it over there, but it's davening regarding the Beis HaMikdash, which he concludes Baruch Asher Bacha B'Mikdash, that he chose the holy temple. Val Yisrael and the Jewish people, meaning he would daven for the Jewish people, and he would conclude Baruch HaBoicha B'Am Yisrael. That's the one who chose, like we have by the bracha of Ahava Olam, and also Ba'ala Kahanim on the Kahanim, Ba'al Yerushalayim, which in the Yerushalmi Masechta Sotah they explain what this bracha is on Yerushalayim, and Varshar Tefillah and the rest of that Tefillah, which the Gemara is going to explain what that actually is. But one thing the Gemara wants to infer from the opening part of this whole procession of our Mishnah, it sounds like that Shamet Mino, we can infer from the fact that you told me that the Chazan HaKnesses takes the Sefer Torah and he gives it to the Rosh HaKnesses, and that the Shamish doesn't give it straight to the Kohen Gadol, rather he honors the Gabe in front of the Skan, in front of the Kohen Gadol, and then the Gabe honors the Skan in front of the Kohen Gadol, which Taisa says actually it's really more about the Skan. But Shema Minah, what we confer from this is Cholkin Kablatam Makarat Marav, that you give out honor to the student in place in where the Rebbe's there. Meaning a smaller student could honor a bigger student, even though the Rav is there, and it's not embarrassing for the Rav, which that's Machlekes in Baba Basra, Kavi Testament Beis. It seems like anonymously in our Mishnah that you could give honor to El Terabacha, or someone that's your Rebbe in front of the Rebbe or whatever, this and that, because you're honoring. It's on that. Abai says no, it's not a riot. The truth is you're not Cholkin. Here it's Kula Mishum Kavoid the Kohen Gadol. Here it's actually all because on the Kohen Gadol. You show how many steps up it takes to get to the Rebbe, so it's all in his honor to show, yeah, the Skan is Chushiv, but the Rebbe is the Kohen Gadol is Mer Chushiv. So it's not giving covet to the Skan, it's all in the name of the honor of the Kohen Gadol. Now we said in the Mishnah, so Kohen Gadol, we said he stands up, he receives the Sefer Torah, and then he lands. So the Gemara says, wait a second, you had me there. What was the narrative? Oimid, you said he stands up. The inference is that he was sitting. How could he be sitting? But the master says in Yeshiva Ba'azara, there's no sitting in the Azara, which Tosfos says he doesn't know what the source of this halacha is. He tries bringing many different sources of what the source is from this halacha. Who cannot sit, who could yes sit, the Kohen Gadol, a melech. But al kapanim, that's the halacha that our Gemara brings, that there's no sitting in the Azara, because it's covered Shemayim, that even Malachim Shadis are not allowed to sit over there, like it says, that even the Malachim are standing. So no one's allowed to sit in the courtyard. Only for the Davidic dynasty, for the kings of the Davidic dynasty, which Hashem gave them a specific honor to show that his malchus is complete. Something says Shmuel Beis. That the king David came and he sat in front of Hashem. But Haman says, who am I? But you see that he was sitting, which Tosfos actually brings. There are opinions that disagree. Hold even Malchus Beis David are not allowed to, and either he was leaning against the wall, or it doesn't mean he actually sat. It means he settled his thoughts. That's what the Yesha means. The Kohen Gadol Zichik cannot sit, which actually Tosfos brings up in between the holds that he could, and asks therefore what would our Gemara be saying? But the Gemara says, Kedam Rav Chizda, like Rav Chizda says later on, Be'ezus Nashim, Hachanami, when we said he wasn't sitting, he was Be'ezus Nashim is where he read. And that was considered unconsecrated, like the rest of the Harabayis, which wasn't sanctified from the wall. It was only from the wall within. Even the doorway of the Shar Nikanor, where it goes from Ezra's Nashim to Ezra, was not sanctified. So that's where he was. Our Gemara's Nusach is Meisvei. Hagoyis Marav Ramsberg says it should say Detanya. It's not a question, but like the Brisa says, but where would they read the parish of Hakel, not this of the Kohen Gadol Megiburim? Hakel was in the Shemitah year, like it was this past year, the Hakel after the Shemitah year. This year, so where would the Melech read from the Mishnah Torah? So Ba'azar, it was in the courtyard. As Yaakov says, no Bahara in the temple of Hashem, like it says the Pasuk in Nehemiah, as a continued of Aleph. He read from it in front of the square. That's in front of the gate of the water. So Rashi says one thing that we see is that according to the Rabbanan, you see that they would read from it in the Azara. So the question is, how was he sitting? And that's similar to the question on the Kohen Gadol. Then Rav Chizdi says, no, but Ezra's Nashim, don't worry, when they read from the Mishnah Torah, where everyone was sitting, was not the regular Azara, the Ezra's Yisrael Ezra, that was by the Ezra's Nashim, and therefore he was able to sit. Thank you to an time for hosting us.